will be there. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is our second live episode of the Let's Talk Broncos podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to welcome everyone to a brand new live episode of Let's Talk Broncos, brought to you by Mile High Sports. You can now follow us on Twitter at Mile High Sports, at the LTB Podcast, at BreeBree0322, at JR Drafts, and at Zach_Segars. You can find all of Zach and Joey's excellent writing on milehighsports.com, and you can listen to any of our previous episodes on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our new YouTube channel, Facebook, and Instagram. If that's your thing, you can find us there too. Zach, Joey, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I had a really good day today. Per usual, worked very hard. Woke up early, got a lot done. Just was excited to get back here. I love the live episodes. It's like one of my favorite things now. The Twitter Spaces was fun, but being able to actually have the podcast live with segments and we have different things going like that, it's just fun and exciting. So yeah, that was pretty much my day, and I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah, same. I feel the same way. These are so much fun to do. Sorry, I have the wrong one up. These are so much fun to do, still figuring out some of the quirks here and there. But yeah, it's fun. I'm excited to get to interact with these people live. Don't think it's up there right now. If you go to the Let's Talk Broncos Twitter, the links are definitely there for our Facebook, for our YouTube. So if you want to go over there and leave us some live questions, go on and go ahead. But yeah, I'm just so excited to be doing these. These are always so much fun.
I am going to echo the both of you sentiment and say how excited I am to be here, not only with you guys recording a brand new episode, but doing so live so we can get live viewer feedback. We can answer questions real time. But prior to today's episode, we actually asked a bunch of our listeners to chime in with questions they had just about anything Broncos. And I think we should get right into those because they did not disappoint. I'm going to start off first and foremost with JT Matthews, our friends over at Orange and Brew. At JT Matthews 01 wants to know, what will be the most compelling camp battle? Joey, you want to start us off?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so mine's kind of a cheat because there are 5 positions in what I'm about to say, but I think the offensive line, just in general, pretty much outside of Garrett Bowles, the whole entire offensive line is kind of a question mark. And it could take just one player anywhere on that offensive line beating another player out where everything changes. Everyone has to move different positions, anything like that. I mean, we have Calvin Anderson at right tackle. Billy Turner can kind of play guard or tackle. We don't really know where he's going to start the season. Does Quinn Miners start at guard or center? Those are massive question marks that could change not just one, but 4 positions across the line. So yeah, that would be mine for sure. Zach, what about you, man?
I'm going with and I think that's a good one, but to vary it some, give us some different answers here. I'm going with the cornerback 4 matchup. I think that's something I'm very, very interested to watch, especially with what we saw from Michael Ojemudia in that last game of last season. I think he's one of the most unknown quantities on this entire roster. We've seen some really high-end flashes, even in his rookie season. He had moments where he looked like a really impressive rookie corner. And he's also had plenty of really low moments. Didn't play hardly at all last year. So the water is so murky on what I think he's going to end up being as a player. And now you have a 3rd round pick, one of the higher selections, or maybe it was a 4th round pick, but one of the higher selections by the Broncos in this draft, their 3rd selection of the draft, Damari Mathis, coming in, probably a better fit in the nickel, which is where the Broncos are a little shallower. Maybe that leads to more playing time for him. So yeah, that's one I am very intrigued to watch between Ojemudia and Damari Mathis, who's going to be that cornerback 4. Because if you're cornerback 4, I think you'll see the field a good bit. If you're cornerback 5, you're probably not seeing the field outside of special teams, barring injury.
Yeah, Zach, I have a quick follow-up to that. Do you have a favorite out of those 2? I mean, for me personally, I think it would make the most sense that Ojemudia would probably be the favorite just because more experience in the NFL. He was a higher drafted player, but I'm just curious if your opinion differs.
Part of my gut definitely goes that way, but the other part goes, this staff has no ties to Ojemudia. They have no attachment to him whatsoever. And I do think Damari might be the more natural nickel and or more natural playing inside than Ojemudia. And I could see them asking that. I think Ojemudia is the favorite, though, just because he's a veteran, but it's a 55-45 deal. I think it's pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not mad at that answer. I think you have a better idea of what Mathis is than I, so I'll follow your lead. Yeah, Bree, do you have an answer to that question?
Mine's a little outside of the box, you guys. I'm going to have to say that Denver's defense against any of the quarterbacks out on the field during practice is kind of the compelling camp battle, because you're really trying to see just the supreme talent out there. And now you're no longer trying to guess who the quarterback who is throwing the ball is. You just know, obviously Russell Wilson is out there and you've got the backups playing a little bit, but it's fascinating and it's exciting to see Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain doing exactly what they do best, and that's playing lights out defense. So I think that's the most compelling. I'm excited to watch it going forward, and this time with a little bit of spin on it. We're not necessarily saying the defense or the offensive one camp that day. So that's what I'm excited for. I echo your sentiments in the answers that you gave. I think that those are things that you're going to want to watch out for. And I think the listeners who are on with us right now really do want to pay close attention to both of those that you pointed out. We will move on to the second question that we have from our friend Christopher Hart at Topher Hart. Has two questions. The first one, I'm going to ask you to put your general manager hat on. If you were George Payton and can make one move to improve the team in a player acquisition, what would you do and why? Zach, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, if I could make any move on this roster right now, I think I'm going to sign J.C. Treader, the center. I think this is an under the radar one I'm throwing out, but it should be on more people's radar. He's one of the best free agents out there right now. And don't sleep on these free agents out there right now. I was talking about it on yesterday's show with Joey. The free agents available right now are going to impact next season more than most first round picks. Like that's a fact. J.C. Treader, odds are he probably doesn't sign it with Denver. But wherever he signs, he's going to be more impactful in year one than a majority of first round picks. Jadeveon Clowney, who just signed a few days ago, going to be more impactful than a majority of first and second and third round edge rushers. So as much as we covet these high draft picks, it's a lot for what they're going to do down the road, not immediate success. And that's why people should not be sleeping on these free agents and why the Broncos should sign J.C. Treader. They need a center. We've been talking about the problems with maybe height at that center position throughout the offseason. J.C. Treader checks that box at only 6'4", so that's nice. But I also think he just brings some stability to the position. Hackett was complimentary of Cushenberry yesterday, but I am still under the impression that, I don't know, Cushenberry's time with the Broncos might not be very long. Same with Dalton Reisner. I think they need to definitely at center. They need to beef up that center position. They don't have enough bodies at that center position. It seems incredibly murky right now. J.C. Treader has some familiarity in this outside zone scheme, wide zone scheme coming from Cleveland. He's a leader, NFLPA president. I think there's a lot of reasons to like going after J.C. Treader. He's a little on the older end, but he's just 31. He's got some years left in him as a quality center. So it's a set it and forget it move. You pay the 4 or 5, I don't know, maybe it's closer to 10, but in that 8-ish million range for a high-end starter. And all of a sudden, a position we've been worried about all off season, no longer a worry.
Yeah. Zach, yours was a little more specific than mine. I kind of took the easy route on this question. I just went with the position that I'd like to see them attack. And you highlighted it in your last one. It was the nickel cornerback position. You were curious who that cornerback 4 would be, or I guess not just cornerback 4, but guy that would slide in there if K'Wan Williams went out at our nickel corner. I don't really feel comfortable with a rookie starting a lot. I don't really feel comfortable with the saying Bassey. Like those are just our two options after that, it looks like to me. And that's why it hurts seeing Bryce Callahan leave not just leave, but for the price that he left at, right? It would be really, really nice having him as a cornerback 4 right now, guy that you can trust. You could really limit his snaps during that, but we missed out on him. So I hope that it would be nice at least if they did attack that a little more.
Joey, you took the words right out of my mouth, because my answer was actually something that George Paton should have done, and that was re-sign Bryce Callahan, bring him back for that minimum of $1.27 million that would have been pocket change for the Denver Broncos and would have made an explicit impact on the field when Callahan is healthy. And instead of letting him go to an AFC West rival, I'm pretty sore over that. So I think that we need to move on to the next question, because I'm not too happy about that. But before we do have a comment in the chat from Marcellus. Do you expect the defense to drop since the loss of Bryce and Kyle Fuller?
I mean, right off the bat, I mean, in a perfect world, if we were to stay healthy, especially that nickel corner spot, were to stay healthy, I'd say not really. I think the bigger reason why the defense may take a loss, and I know you guys are going to disagree with me a little here, is the loss of Vic Fangio. I think he's a mastermind defensive guy. I really do. I think he's the best defensive coach in the NFL. Maybe wasn't cut out to be a head coach for reasons Zach has explained. Bree, you've explained very thoroughly. He wasn't a very good leader. There was locker room issues, different stuff like that. But if you want a guy coaching the defensive side of the ball, there's nobody better than Vic Fangio. And I think that's why the Broncos may take a step back. Now, I will say, adding on to that, do I like Kyle Fuller as a nickelback this next year more than I like our backup nickelbacks this year? Maybe as a 1 year guy, I might, and I wouldn't write anything home about Kyle Fuller's season last year. But I think that's how a little worried I am about the backups at that position.
It's tough. Yeah, that cornerback room, I don't know if it's taking a step back, because I really expect Pat Surtain to take such a seismic step forward this year, really towards that superstar status, not just from being a good corner, which is so wildly rare. You talk about Jalen Ramsey being okay his rookie year and how impressive that was, and AJ Terrell being okay his first year and that being super impressive, and then he turns into a stud in year 2. Surtain was better than both those guys as a rookie. I think we're going to see something truly special from him in year 2, which eases the loss of Bryce and Kyle Fuller. I do think losing those guys brings it. It's tough because there's just so many moving parts. That does hurt the slot cornerback area, that nickel corner position this year relative to last. But you're also getting Michael Ojemudia back, who showed some really impressive highs last year. I wouldn't just resign to the fact that this year's cornerback room is worse. I think you're getting a lot better in the front 7 this year as opposed to last year. That'll make the corners' lives a lot easier. The loss of Vic Fangio hurts, as Joey mentioned, but I'm still not sure how much it hurts. I still am open to the possibility that it might be a benefit, just because I think people were so checked out last year, and just like that miserable coming to work. And I know Joey's more of the opinion that losing Vic Fangio is really going to hurt the defense, and that's, hey, you're losing Vic Fangio. But I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the defense is better than last year. They were ranked like 22nd in DVOA. It's going to be harder to get worse considering the talent on this defense than it will be to get better, in my mind.
I think you really said something that was tremendous, not only in the seismic difference you're going to see out of Patrick Surtain, but even Kareem Jackson, who is a loud and important leader on the Denver Broncos defense, is coming to say just how night and day his shift has been. And that's a lot coming from an impressive rookie season. So I think that there's been a lot of changes. There's a lot of variables that have happened in Broncos country and for the team, the organization in itself, and that can tend and lend to a lot of uncertainty. But I don't feel as though there has been a real regression in the roster itself. We just don't know how the changes will play out, either positive or negatively. I did want to get to Christopher's next question that speaks to this, and that's, what are the strengths and the weaknesses of Denver's roster right now?
Yeah, Zach, you want to take this first one?
Yeah. I think the biggest weakness, or let me go with strength. I think the biggest strength of this roster, I had to remember what I wrote, honestly. I think the biggest strength of this roster is the backfield. And I'm including the quarterback in this conversation. And it's so nice to finally be there with this team. But yeah, when I look at this team, I feel best about quarterback and the running back room. I think the running back room kind of speaks for itself. Javonte Williams, I think, is going to be one of the true elite running backs of the position, like Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, and the like. I think he is one of those next faces of the position. I think Melvin Gordon, I've been very vocal about, man, that cliff is approaching soon. But if you get last year's Melvin Gordon, he's in the conversation for being the best number 2 back in all of football. You get Mike Boone, who is one of the better number 3 backs in all of football. And then you've got guys right now who are turning heads in camp. Demarie Crockett was a camp guy last year, who I think, doesn't bring much to the table, but he's just like, he's got a pulse. You can put him in there and you can survive. And then you've got Tyreek McAllister, who has been turning heads at camp, has some real bursts to him. And in this scheme where we frequently see no-name running backs, undrafted free agents that just have that vision and that speed, able to thrive. I'm not counting Tyreek McAllister out whatsoever. So I think that running back room is rock solid. And then you look at quarterback. I feel good about backup Josh Johnson. I think he is a better backup than the backup quarterback the Broncos had last year. Maybe not a better overall quarterback, but better in that backup role. And then Russell Wilson just looks the part. I cannot emphasize that enough. It looks good at training camp. You're playing against air, so who knows once the real bullets start firing. But all my concerns about age, about the 2020-2021 season have been alleviated going to training camp. Or OTAs rather. I'm so excited for fans to get there for training camp, because I think the buzz in this city is just going to go through the roof, because does it look different in a very, very positive way. I know I'm going long. I'm trying to remember my weakness that I said really quick. Oh, lack of winning experience. I do think that's a thing. When you have these organizations, Browns, Jets, and over the last 6 years, Jets and Broncos are the 2 least successful NFL franchises. When you have those teams that are so unsuccessful for such a long period of time, that culture of losing sets in somewhat. You don't know how to win in those big spots. All of a sudden, the Chiefs start coming back on you and you go, oh, here we go, number 16 or number 15 or whatever it would be. It's in the back of your head. And I do think that's something I'm concerned about.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my strength I wrote down was kind of, I don't know. I kind of figured you guys would have some answers, so I went with one kind of outside the box. I don't know if this is their biggest strength. It isn't their biggest strength, but I think a lot of that newness that can be thought of as a negative, and I do think it's a negative in a lot of circumstances. It could also be a competitive advantage. I mean, the same way we don't know what offense the Broncos are going to run, I don't think other teams know what offense the Broncos are going to run. The same way we don't know what defense the Broncos are going to run, I don't think other teams know what defense we're going to run. So maybe while, we have players adjusting to new things, we have a new quarterback, obviously, new staff, huge things. The team is for sale, all these massive, massive deals going on. It brings some unpredictability to the Broncos at the beginning of the season. So, I mean, it could be an advantage. It could be. I'll be interested to see if it is. And my weakness is that the health at the edge position. It's worrisome just how much games Chubb and Randy Gregory have missed over the years, right? It's a big deal. And this is my Fangio thing. I mean, he got a lot out of that defense without having adequate edge rushers last year. And I'm not sold that anybody else could come in here and just say, hey, go play good defense without edge rushers, right? And so if we have Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory missing time, it's like, well, I'm not so sure about this Broncos defense. And that's a big glaring weakness for me right now.
Now, I will say a few points. I agree with some of what you said, and I really disagree with some of it. I think the depth at edge rusher is a lot different this year, where you've got Benito now all of a sudden in that pass rushing role. You've got Baron Browning, which I don't love that move. We'll talk about that more later. But he's in that role now. So instead of Malik Reed and Jonathan Cooper, you're looking at Benito and Browning. I think that's a sizable upgrade. As long as Browning translates, which I know is a bit of a question, but basing it on what I saw of him coming out of Ohio State, I feel confident he'll be better than Reed and Cooper personally. Definitely
Zach,
Reed.
I'm going to argue with you a little bit. I am a little worried. I don't know. It's just like, okay, so Benito, I think I watched the film. I think I know what he's gonna bring as a pass rusher, maybe a little bit. But at the end of the day, this guy's still a rookie. And if we lose time, like if we have our edge rushers out, do we trust Nick Benito? Do we think he's good enough to be a starting edge rusher or even an adequate starting edge rusher?
No, but I think it's a lot better than it was last year.
I do.
It's not like last year where you're totally SOL. And I don't know how much Vic got out of that defense without the edge rushers. Like I said, they ranked, in the 20s in DVOA and could not get off the field. They allowed more first downs than most any defense. They didn't have the third down proficiency they typically have. The one thing they were good at was red zone defense. And I know that's huge, but I don't think we can let that one success cover up all the other warts.
Yeah, no, I agree that I think it's an upgrade. I'm just wondering how much, and I think it's mystery to me how much Evero can bring out of those guys. Like Vic Fangio kind of erased that whole position. It was like it wasn't really it would have been really nice if we had edge rushers, but the defense still performed without him.
Guys, you segued perfectly into this next comment that I wanted to talk about. First and foremost, though, do not make me separate you two, although I think I'm in the middle here. So if you're going to fight, you get a time limit, and then I will strike the gavel down. The Real 92 PC. Oh, yeah, you should fight, and then I'll just hop out of the chat.
Do we have anyone that can Photoshop in the chat?
Thank you, Cal, for chiming in. The Real 92 PC, which I believe is Patrick Quixote. Who do you think the odd man out is for pass rushers? Should Chubb be considered a trade target? And then Marcus Boggs wants to know, what would Chubb's trade value be?
Okay, I'll go first. I think I'm a man that believes that everything has a value. I think everything can be traded if you're giving up the right amount. I really do. I think that. And Bradley Chubb is in a situation where he hasn't performed really up to our standards. I mean, he was a highly drafted player. I remember watching his film. And that was my first year I really started watching a little bit of film. I didn't have all 22 at the time. I was watching the broadcast, and I loved Bradley Chubb, and I still think that he can be a good player. But at what point do you say, okay, a team's offering me this, I'll go and take that. He hasn't really produced to my standards yet. A lot of it due to health. But yeah, I think that I could trade Bradley Chubb. For how much? Ooh, I'd really have to think about it. I don't even know right now. Zach, do you have an answer to that?
I do. Well, it's so tough. I think on one hand, I get the trade aspect. I think it's impossible to deny. Chubb is definitely, I mean, he fits the indicators of being a trade target. He's on the last year of his deal. Once highly touted player. Broncos have more depth at the position now in terms of pure numbers. We just talked about some of the concerns with depth, but in terms of like number of players at the position, the room's a little crowded. Maybe you do want to trade Chubb. With that said, although Joey and I disagreed a little bit, edge depth is a concern on this team, and this team is trying to win right now. Why are you trying to trade someone who very well might be your best edge rusher? I don't think that's the Broncos evaluation, but I don't think anyone should be surprised if he's the Broncos' best edge rusher next year. If you're concerned about your depth at edge rusher, the horses you have in the stable, don't trade the guy who might be the best one. Let's not do that. I don't think that seems like the best idea. I think he has to be mentioned. To answer Pat's question, yeah, he should be considered a trade target. I wouldn't consider Baron Browning an edge, but should he be considered one? Yeah, I think he should, unfortunately. That's just kind of where we're at.
Okay, before you get into that, let's lead in there just a little bit more. And we're going to actually we're going to skip around here because you've already been playing with the lines. It's blurred lines over here. The hot ticket item currently within Broncos country is Baron Browning and his role for the Broncos defense in 2022. Both Marcus Boggs and Adon Diaz have similar questions regarding Browning as potential landing spot on the defense. I need to get your thoughts. How do you guys feel about the shift of Baron Browning from middle linebacker to off-ball linebacker? And then with Hackett doubling down on Browning at edge full time, do we believe him yet, or do we think it's still a bunch of hybrid looks?
I think I struggle with this one so much. I really do. I don't know what to think. I don't know what. I mean, if you're asking me if I were coaching the Broncos when I would keep him at inside linebacker and maybe ever so often throw him at edge. And at least to get an in-game look at what he could possibly be at edge before I just make a complete 360. We're switching his position after rookie year success and missing all of training camp. I would much rather do that. I think it's a little confusing. Usually, like 90% I would say 99% of the time, when you see a position having the switch, or you see a player having to switch positions, it's because they didn't succeed at the position before. I don't think that's the case for Baron Browning. He was good as a rookie. I think that if you were to ask me who has the most potential out of any of the inside linebackers, I would say Baron Browning. And yeah, that's just where I stand right now. I don't know. Zach, do you agree, disagree?
Well, I just want to jump in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because absolutely phenomenal as a defensive weapon. And you don't necessarily want to just say just because you're switching his position that he's somehow not going to be successful, because that's exactly what Baron Browning has done in the past. He's been able to be versatile in the positions. And I'm kind of a fan of the mystique of not knowing the answer just yet and whether or not he's going to be able to be utilized that, because he's used to positional ambiguity. Like there's an unknown ceiling with where Browning can play, and I think that you don't know until you try. And Zach, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Zach.
No, I'm sorry. I guess he was used to that hybrid role at Ohio State, but I think the general consensus was that hybrid role limited his effectiveness to some extent, at least. I don't know. Right now, I think we got to believe Hackett that he's an edge, and I won't be surprised if he, does some more varied things. Maybe they drop him in coverage more often. Maybe who knows? But I think he's an edge. I think we've got to take Hackett's word for it. It's coming straight from the horse's mouth. Like I think the only reason we're hesitant to believe him at this point is because it doesn't really make much football sense to us, and it isn't what we would do. But at a point, it's like they're saying they're doing this, and they've been putting out the signs for a few months now. And as much as I disagree with it, I'm not saying like, oh, well, they think it's good, so it's good. Because I hate when people use that argument. But I think it's fairly clear at this point that this is the direction they're going.
Yeah. Absolutely. Zach, you're hearing a lot out of OTAs while you're there. And so obviously that has to play into it, what is being told in pressers afterwards from Hackett. But Glenn Hauser wants to know, what's the energy like at OTAs? And have you heard Hackett trash talking with K-Jack yet?
Ooh, that's a good question. Sorry, I'm looking for Glenn's comment really quick so we can get it up. The energy is palpable. Just everyone's more excited and happy to be there. You've got the players celebrating after plays. Everyone's hooting and hollering. They're trash talking back and forth. I haven't caught any K-Jack Hackett trash talk. I think Sutton, and like, don't quote me on this because, media people are talking and we're like 10, 15 feet away. So I caught a snippet of the conversation. So I easily could have misinterpreted it. But I think Sutton might have been like hitting Judy with some playful banner during like a drill, like, let's go. I'm beating you. Very friendly though. So that was good to see. Yeah, just the energy is very different. It's a lot more fun. I talked about it on yesterday's episode. The old media room has been trashed, and is now a player's lounge. Yeah, it's got air hockey and like Papa Shot and TV with like nice recliners and stuff, and it's a great deal for them. I think some media people are probably mad about that, but I appreciate seeing the different vibe, honestly. Like, it's cool to see the McVeyification of the Broncos, if you will. So I'm all for it.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I wish I had some input on that. I mean, Bree and I were definitely complaining about no music at training camp last year. That was like our hot topic conversation was we would be having so much more fun if there was a DJ.
Do not steal my beat, because the Denver Broncos soundtrack for practice beat is entirely mine and explicit. I saw Zach trying to, take that over during his OTAs thread. I'm just trying to post the YouTube link for Twitter so that people, apparently there's a lot of people commenting on Twitter. If you're watching us on Twitter, click the YouTube link, come over and comment in the live chat. We can't see your Twitter comments. Sorry about that. You can come make fun of everything and anything. Not me. Just I'm putting that statement out there. Want to get to the next question that I want to give a shout out to the friend of the show, Frankie Abbott at Frankie's Films. Please go follow him if you're not already. Do not sleep on his account. We've got 100 days, little less than 100 days for the remainder of the off season. Before kickoff, he's a tremendous follow, a great friend of the program, a great guest. So I'm just going to shout him out there. He asked, what skill position player do each of you project to score the most touchdowns for the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, for me, so I kind of tweeted about this player the other day. I'm really, really excited, and this may be a little bit of a leap of faith here, but I'm really excited to see what Courtland Sutton looks like coming a year off of injury. I thought he was good last year. I did, but man, 2 seasons ago, I was looking at him like this guy could be a true wide receiver one, a game changer, just for his explosiveness. And I thought we lacked a little bit of that last year. I think the 50-50 ball stuff could be awesome for him. And now he has Russell Wilson at quarterback. I think sky's the limit. If he comes back, that player we saw 2 years ago with some of the extra polish that he added last year, kind of put those two together. I think Courtland Sutton very well could be dominant. I really do.
Hey, Zach, what about you?
Sutton was my second one. I almost went there. I'm going Javonte Williams. I think it's going to be Javonte. That running back room is crowded, but I do think Gordon comes back to earth a bit. I think Javonte takes a step forward. I think the line's going to be playing better this year. They're also just going to be in a lot more advantageous situations. The running backs, too, they're not going to be facing 9-man boxes, 8-man boxes every other snap. And you're going to have to respect Tim Patrick and Courtland Sutton a whole lot more in the red zone now that there's a quarterback that can utilize those strike zones. And also it's just a math thing. There's less people to steal Williams rushing touchdowns than there are to steal the receiving touchdowns with, 2 really talented receiving tight ends. You've got Patrick and Sutton who can both eat in the red zone too. And then Judy, maybe with some quick breaking stuff working inside. So I'm going with the running back there.
Love it. I am going with a wide receiver in Timmy P. Tim Patrick, I think, is going to have a stellar year. Don't think you can give any comparison to last season when you had the quarterbacks that you did. Russell Wilson is going to make an instrumental change here. He said recently, if you can't put in the extra work, you're not serious about winning, you don't belong on this team. He's getting me excited for what's to come. And I don't know if it's just a feeling that I have, but I'm definitely going with him specifically to have the most touchdowns for the Denver Broncos. He had 5 last season. That's criminal. I'm going to set the over under at 6.5, and I'm thinking he'll be at 7 or 8. I just think that's how big of a shift this is going to be for Tim Patrick, who was above all else reliable. as a target. And I think that, you're just going to be seeing that much more of an improvement in the offense, that you can expect those types of numbers out of our wide receivers. I think Cortland Sutton could potentially have a major year too, just given the already pretty dynamic balance he's found with Russell Wilson. He seems to favor him quite a bit. I'm putting it on Tim Patrick, just because what he showed last year can only get better this year. I do want to see what the comments are saying real quick. Everyone is going crazy. I don't think it's anything we can post.
I think that we bring up Glenn's post here. It says better background jersey, Brady or Clady.
Clady, 100%.
Yeah, I think this is a conversation that needs to be had. I wish we could put a poll up into the chat here, but I feel pretty confident that I would win this.
Mike has a comment down here too. I'm looking for the right one. I don't have a pot. What's this? Mike, sorry, my audio probably just went to shit for 30 seconds, but
yeah, if you could do me a favor and not mess with your audios right now while we're doing this. The answer is obviously the 2 Brady jerseys that I have behind me, and then also the 2 that I have in another place that you can't see right now. Before the next live, Zach needs to dress up in his environment. Okay, so you need more Broncos stuff in the
okay, so here's the deal, folks. I'm moving. I'm in my parents' office right now.
You don't owe them an explanation.
I'm in the process of moving, so I'm not going to Broncofy their office, but I'll get it a little better. I'll spruce things up because this is exceptionally beige right now compared to you guys who have all these colorful jerseys and all these Broncos stuff.
So I'm a little offended that we just passed up on the comment that says, I want Joey Richards merch. I think we all agree. We all need Joey Richards merch.
Really quick, I do want to catch up on some of these questions we didn't get to. Should we expect for Caden Stearns to start this year or only for subs for linebacker and sometimes safety? I'm expecting him to start. I think we saw Kareem Jackson take a step back last year. I think actually we're going to discuss this a little more.
Let's jump right into it. No, that's fine. I just was going to say that's super spicy, and I wasn't prepared for that statement to just come swinging. So give me 1 second.
It's spicy, and it ties into our this question from Frankie.
Yeah, Frankie had a secondary question and wants to know who will be the most important rotational or non-starting player to the team's success, almost like a Broncos 6th man of the year. And my answer, let's go with what your answer was, because mine was Caden Stearns. So I think that
I want the disagreement. I think that's great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think Kareem Jackson was brought back specifically to be the starter, although I believe Caden Stearns can step into that role. I just think having him learn behind K-Jack and Jay Sims right now is the best thing for his growth. And he saw a whole lot more utilization throughout this season last year, although, due to injury, and I really hope that's not the case this season. I just don't think you bring back K-Jack and expect him to not be the starter. So Caden Stearns to me is a non-starter, as a rotational player back there in the secondary. So let me have it.
I think you are bringing K-Jack to be an important player on the defense, and I think he's going to be the Broncos 6th man of the year, their most important rotational player, because I think he's going to be their dime backer, and I think he's going to do a great job of that. He's got the cornerback experience. It will limit what you're not going to be asking him to cover a deep half of the field or a deep third of the field or a deep quarter, and however you want to break it down. You're not asking him to do that as much anymore, and I think we did see a little bit of slippage in his game, him losing a bit of a step last year. I think getting Stearns and Simmons back there is your best safety tandem, and then K-Jack. If you're playing a lot of dime, you need your dime backer to be able to support the run game from the slot, to be able to be physical, hit those run fits well. And K-Jack can do that exceptionally well. I think he's probably even better than Stearns at that. I think so. With that in mind, he's probably the better backup, and Stearns is the better starter. And so that's why I have it shaking down that way.
That's interesting. My one worry about Stearns there is that we didn't see him play a lot of that position last year, right? It's kind of a change. We saw him play a lot of that, more of a nickel role and the dime thing. We didn't see him a ton back at actually where Kareem Jackson was. So, I mean, we did on occasion, but it wasn't like a thing that we saw all the time. It really wasn't. It was a couple games. So that would be my one worry there, but he has all the ability. Guys was really good and impressed me a lot last year for the player I saw come out of Texas. Just looked a lot better than I thought. Mine is a little different. Instead of picking like a 6th man of the year, I took the most important route. And mine is it's a massive swing player. I think it could drastically change the Broncos season. But McTelvin Agim, I really do. I think that if he came out and he was the pass rusher that we thought he might be coming out of college, it could pay off huge for the Broncos. And I always say this, and it's now I it's not even that I always say this. It's to the point where it's like, yeah, it's every single podcast. If you can get home with 4 pass rushers, it's massive. And McTelvin Agim, it would be huge into that. You need a rotation. It's not just that starting group. You need rotation. All those guys are going to need breathers. McTelvin Agim has the ability. We just need to see him take that next step. And it could be huge.
I actually love that choice because he very well could be that guy. If you get the high end of McTelvin Agim, which we've only seen very sparsely in flashes, and there's been plenty of bad sprinkled in too. But if you get that high end version, it could. You talked about how that could be a total force multiplier for the defense on yesterday's episode of the show. So everyone should go check that out.
I am being derailed by the comments right now, so I apologize for losing face. Go ahead and scan through them, Zach. And
let's get through some of these. Glenn, better undersized passer, Russell Wilson or Mile High Mario. Russell Wilson throws as many touchdowns in a season as Mario does in a game. That's not close. Anyone disagree?
No, but I think Russell Wilson probably has a little more gentleness.
You think he puts a little more finesse on the ball?
A little bit. It's not.
Yeah, he knows touch.
Yeah. He has a little touch for sure. Mario has like, if you're playing Madden, he has like the hold down on X throw every single time. It's tough. We had a snow game.
Bazooka X Factor.
Yeah, exactly. With the Bazooka X Factor, like, yeah, for sure. We were playing in the snow. That was my first time playing football with everybody. It was a rough day out there for me. It wasn't a good one. It wasn't a good one for trying to catch those ones. But yeah,
I enjoyed that day because we could have like winter gloves on, and that was proper padding for him throwing like a missile to you in the flat.
Yeah, I was a little sore the next day running around in the snow, but other than that, we're good.
Who's my favorite press conference player all time? It's got to be Will Parks. I'll never forget how friendly and like kind Will Parks always was. It was a reason why after every game, the backup safety would have a mob of cameras around them. And then I think right now, here, Joe, you wanted to say something, so you go. I'll try to think who it is.
Yeah, I wasn't involved in any of these press conferences or anything like that, but clearly my favorite of all time is Aqib Talib. It has to be Aqib Talib. He came away with great quotes and stuff that I absolutely love to hear. I'll never forget the Crabtree stuff. Some of that stuff like that was awesome. Anyways, yeah, we can move on to the next thing.
Right now, I might go Bulls just because I think he'll give like a real thoughtful answer. And then like there's been times where he's been a little chippy, and I like when they're a little chippy. I think plenty of media pearl clutch, but I enjoy like, I don't know, if we're asking bad questions, we deserve snarky responses.
A little bit of snark never hurt anybody, although I'm also not involved in any of the pressers. One of the players that I do enjoy listening to talk more than anything is probably Montrell Washington. That kid has a really great head on his shoulders, and when he talks, it's almost you don't want to stop listening. You kind of want him just keep on talking. And so I've really enjoyed listening to him when he gets to speak, and hopefully get some more time to do so, because I think he's going to be a tremendous leader, not only for the offense, but for the entire organization. Zach, do you have anything else out there? Okay.
Sorry. Better background jersey. Talked about that. I think it's definitely Clady. A lot of people telling me I need to spruce up my background. Let me see. People are shots fired. There aren't lights in this room. I'm going to be real. We'll figure out a better situation tomorrow. I was moving today, folks. We're not at our, I'm not dressed to the nines right now. Here we go. From Darius Wilkins, great personality on Twitter. Which player is going to have a breakout season?
Whew, that one's tough. I would like to say McTominay game again. Draymond Jones, I already think he's broken out. I think that'd be the most popular one, but I think he's already broken out. So, man, that one's tough. I'm not sure who I would pick there. Zach,
can I go Surtain? Can I go Surtain? Because I think it's going to be a breakout in the sense that, the people in Denver, Colorado knew he was a pretty good cornerback last year, and he was a pretty good cornerback last year. I think he's going to be a superstar this year.
Okay.
I think this is the year. I think it's going to be different. I think he is the dude.
Okay, so I thought of mine. Mine is Quinn Miners. I think Quinn Miners is due for a guy that was learning so much last season as a rookie. He now has a full offseason under his belt. He was able to study more about the position. I mean, Zach has great stories about him, like not knowing a lot of things last year. You could go rewind.
He said at a presser. He didn't know nickel and dime fronts. You know how we're talking about how the Broncos are going to play nothing but dime this next season? That's a lot of NFL teams. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things that if you just played like Madden, you figure out, right? So it shows how much he's learning, and for how good he was as a rookie coming from Wisconsin Whitewater, didn't even play his senior year. I think he could take a big second-year jump. We saw the talent. Now it's all about putting it together.
Antonio Acosta is telling me you can't go Surtain. He was a top 5 CB last season. Well, that's too bad, because that's my pick.
He was not.
I know. No. You're right. I'm just saying, whatever he had done last season and everything he continues to do, it's you can't refute the opportunity that he has to take his already veteran presence and do something just miraculous this season. And that's saying a lot, coming from a very impressive player who was able to just absolutely dominate. So my pick is Pat Surtain, but I also wanted to shout out to McKenna. Hi, McKenna. Thank you for watching. I got a message. So hi.
Here I'm looking. Man, I'm getting roasted. Glenn had a good joke. Mike goes, I feel like Segars needs some manic panic vampire red in his hair to brighten up the room. I do. I'm rocking the hat right now because it's utter chaos.
Don't screenshot that.
Yeah, new Zach meme. Guys, new Zach meme just dropped. Who has a bigger microphone than Joey, MF, and Richards? No one. We have the exact same microphone. So the fact that we've got one MHRT person going crazy, Breeze might be the biggest if we're measuring.
That's damn right. Yeah.
Zach, what is the next question you plan to ask Russell, like in person? I haven't thought about it yet. I'm going to be there Friday. I assume I won't probably talk to him Friday. I assume the next time I'd see him would be next Monday if there's still OTAs. I'm trying to get moved right now. I'm kind of living in 24-hour windows. I don't have my question yet. But so many people ask garbage questions about like, hey, remember that time you saw me in 2012 and can you fluff my ego a little bit? And it's like, I'm not going to ask a question to ask a question. If I have something I'm curious about, and I think others will be curious about, and I think it's a good question, I'll ask it. But plenty of people ask questions just to ask questions, and it's painful. Joey and Bree are cringing, but that person
No, I thought it was.
cannot figure out StreamYard. They are not going to hear me making fun of them.
I thought it was great. I thought it was a great comment.
We don't represent each other's point of views. We only support them. Thanks, Scott.
A gene.
I think it's a game.
I think we have
it's a gene.
more.
Are you guys all moving into Ask It? Starter Pod Ask. I've thrown this idea out. I don't think it's happening. Should Bree rescue herself from any Sertan comment since she is the president of the PS2 fan club?
I do recuse myself from any and all perjury related to
yeah.
that. But also, I pitched the pod house idea, and neither of them thought it was a very good one. So
I'm so down for it. We did Vegas. Why not the house? Do you believe that Russ will still have the notion that he doesn't throw to tight ends often? And if not, what do you think the tight ends will do this season? I think he will still have that notion. We are, like the old saying, leopard doesn't change his spots. We're 9-10 years, and that looks like a fucking leopard. I don't know what to tell you. I think it might be a little inflated. It might be a little bit of a different offense. These weapons are different from what he's had in the past, but I don't think it'll be much different. Maybe a little dialed up.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's not just tight ends. It's middle of the field throws, right? That's where Russ really doesn't target the field a ton. Middle over the just that intermediate over the middle throws is the area where he just doesn't attempt a lot. And that's where tight ends typically are. I think the Broncos were smart going after vertical options at tight end, kind of moving out of that area so that they can utilize them more. But no, especially I don't know what everybody thinks of Alberto, but I'd be curious to get a gauge on that. I think he's cool. Do I think he's an amazing player? No, I don't. Dulcich is a rookie. I think it's going to take a little bit for him. I think that a lot of your yards are going to come from wide receivers this year.
I muted myself. Sorry, guys. I do have a quite a juicy question from Cal. He did submit to the mailbag. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Whose team is it? Hackett's or Wilson's?
Okay. I think it's a player-driven league. I think quarterback trumps coach every single time. And if it doesn't, we have a problem. I think that if the quarterback wants it to be his team, the coach should give the reins to that quarterback every single time because, honestly, that guy's just more important to you. There's a lot more better play callers than there is quarterbacks in the league. That's just under my opinion. Maybe someone would argue that. But the Broncos have gone through this quarterback situation for a while. Make the guy happy, and it's his team. That's just in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Denver needs a quarterback. They were ruled by Drew Lock for a year and a half. It's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has so much power. Now, with that said, I don't think we should underrate Hackett's ability to maybe be pulling some strings behind the scenes. I think he comes across a little not a little. I think he comes across extremely Michael Scottish.
That's our hot take. I don't think we see a lot of people agree with that.
I think it's
Twitter.
Pretty dead on. Michael Scott's a lovable character, I think, by the end of the show, but he's a little goofy.
Very, very lovable.
And I think there is some of that to Hackett, but I think it's that's how he Trojan horse, just being there and seeing a little bit of some of it and hearing more of the players talk about their experiences with Hackett and how he can be serious at times and whatnot. I think that's how he Trojan horses in the real stuff. And so I think that kind of soft, hey, I'm your buddy, I'm your pal. That's going to be able to get Russell Wilson warmed up to what he has to be warmed up to, which is the run first offense. And that doesn't mean primarily running the ball, but have everything predicated off the run and just let Wilson eat defenses alive like that. I think you want this team to be running the ball heavily and opening things up downfield for Wilson. I think part of the reason we've seen him take a step back these past 2 years is because Seattle's run game couldn't punish opposing coverages for playing Wilson so conservatively. Now the Broncos have a run game to punish those defenses, and I think they should use it early and often. Now selling Wilson on that, who wants to be Mr. 40 dropbacks a game, Peyton Manning 2.0, it might be hard to sell Wilson on that, but I think Hackett can. And so although it's ultimately Wilson's team, Hackett can still pull the strings on it.
Yeah, and I also think it's important to point out that it's like it was a trade for Russell Wilson, but at the end of the day, he chose the Broncos, right? Like that was a big deal. And if he didn't get it his way, he wasn't going to come to the Broncos. It's his team. That they gave up way too many resources for him, for it not to be his team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an interesting question specifically to who you would want leading the team. Is it the coach? Is it the face of the franchise and Russell Wilson, who succeeded in making sure the Broncos representation is felt far and wide? Or is it kind of an amalgamation of certain parts of both with like a sprinkle of Peyton on top? And so what I think is what's really important and it's impressive is that the entire team and the roster and the players itself have seen this just a monumental shift in the energy that exists on every aspect. So whether it be practice or it be the pressers or it be in interviews or it just be walking into the building, I think you're feeling this extremely exciting shift. And we keep talking about it, but it's so different from what it used to be that I cannot stress it enough that the combination that's happening, whatever it is, if it's 60% Hackett and 40% Russ or vice versa, that the change has been, nothing short of exactly what this team needed and exactly what these players needed. So Hackett's able to really derive the best out of the players in the roster. Wilson's able to kind of, play off of it. And everyone involved is winning. So the roster seems happy. The coaches seem really tuned into the team and what they need. And I'd say Hackett's team and Russ is running with it.
Okay. Different take. I like it, Bree. I like it.
It is different. We're unless there's any Cal said he asked great questions. He does. Please do that again.
He does.
Yeah,
we
keep
have
the questions coming.
We have a final prepared one that I'm going to throw in there from O-Rod over on Twitter. He really wants to know, and give it to me straight, fellas, because I think you both were in middle school in 2012. Were you more excited for Peyton Manning's first season or more excited for Russ's first season?
So I was still in middle school. Zach, were you in middle school?
I was. Sorry, everybody, I was. I was in 7th grade. And really quick, don't leave the chat. After this last prepared one, we'll get to all your chat questions. So hang around. We'll get to them. Yeah, I was in 7th grade. I actually remember the moment pretty vividly. I don't think I had an iPhone yet, but someone who did, or someone that had like, a push notification, found out and told me, and I was like going to pee, and I was like literally skipping through the halls. I was like, "This is incredible! We got paid." I was yelling like a maniac. I was a weird kid. It's how I got the job I got today. But I was very excited then. I think I'm more excited now. And I don't think, go back to 2012. I think it's easy now to be like, well, the Peyton Manning years were so great, and Peyton Manning's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, greater than Russell Wilson, frankly. And so Peyton Manning's the answer. But if you go back to 2012, and it's like the Tebow trade happened as a part of that, and there were plenty of people in Denver that had sour grapes about that. Peyton Manning had the neck surgery thing, and there was a lot more uncertainty about his health. And also, rather than being a kid, which I think was very exciting, to be fair, I'm working on this stuff now where I cannot tell you people how happy I am. I don't have to rewatch a Drew Lock game. I can't tell you how happy that makes me, or a Teddy Bridgewater game. Teddy Bridgewater was boring too, but both were painful. The fact that I'd watch those games 3 times. You think watching them once is painful? Watch them 2 more times when you know what happens.
I'm just glad I don't have to talk about it afterwards with you while we're trying to enjoy, post-game festivities, and we have to argue about it for an hour.
See, I kind of agree with you, Bree, but I would love an episode where we just bring up old
Lock beef
debates,
and just
and
really dig into it.
we rank the worst arguments during the lock era. I think that would be fun.
That's a good episode. Put that
Yeah.
in the idea bank. No one steal it.
Yeah. No one steal that, please.
I think we have a comment. Darius asked, do you think KJ Hamler will be ready for week 1? Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over. You had one too. Oh, no. That's all.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was looking for that one. My thing wasn't updating. It seems like it. All signs now are that he's ahead of schedule and that he's doing absolutely great.
Insane, right?
I'm hopeful for it. I hope he has that same weird, or not even, I don't want to say weird because that makes it sound like a negative, but just unique movement. He moved differently than everyone else. I loved seeing him with the ball in his hands. It looked like he had so much speed, like he couldn't contain it. He ran so chaotically. I don't know. I absolutely loved it. Hopefully we get that version back. Let's run through some more of all your questions. Sorry, everyone. I got to scan through these for the questions.
Zach wouldn't give me control of the actual control panel. He said,
I don't think you can.
But I have that little weird steering wheel that's in the passenger side that, like, I think it works, but it doesn't really do anything.
Okay.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
No, I gotta say, I am so grateful that I'm not driving while I'm running this because, man, doing it while just talking on this thing was a lot. But I know we have the best running back duo in the division, but individually, are they still about Josh, Austin, and Clyde? I think the Clyde thing is dead. We're 2 years into it at this point. I still see fantasy dorks hyping him up as like a first-round pick. Folks, they gave Darrell Williams snaps over him like 2 years in a row. It's time to throw in the towel on that one.
Yeah, but have you checked his Dominator?
Oh, fantasy scouting. Joey knows that shit sends me over the edge. Josh Jacobs. Really, any conversation about Josh Jacobs being a good back has to involve his first 2 years in the league. And if you remove his first 2 years from in the league from the conversation, he's frankly not a good running back. Austin Eckler, I think, is probably still the best back in the division. But yeah, that's where I go with those four.
Yeah.
Any other opinions?
I know we have the best running back duo in the division, but individually, I think Javonte Williams has as good of a chance as any of those guys to be the best running back in the league or in the division this next year. I think that's just my opinion. I'm not sold on really heavily on any of those other guys.
Does Tomlinson make the team? I think this is Eric Tomlinson.
Yeah.
They brought in. You signed him with a clear role in mind. I don't know what changed.
Yeah, I agree. They need an inline guy. Alberto and Dulcich aren't the guys to be really effective blockers. I think Tomlinson was signed to be exactly that, fill that niche role that the Broncos don't have. It would shock me to see him not make the roster.
Bree, you think Tomlinson makes it?
I don't know. I think that's another interesting battle that's going to happen throughout training camp. I'm not sure, but it would be weird for signing him and then not doing so, not keeping him on the roster. I think there's space to fill there.
I agree.
All right.
Name the 5'10" Podhouse people. Me and 4 Tim Wenses and a whole lot of foam. How do you three envision how the offense is going to look like? Timmy Streets mentioned it's a combination of Russell Wilson's offense and Hackett's. I'm curious to know how that might look. I think we all are, and I think it's still the biggest mystery surrounding this team. I don't think we really can know. I will say this. Seattle had a whole lot of offensive coordinators with a whole lot of different backgrounds come through Seattle, and the offense really never changed a lot. There were like a few wrinkles here and there, and I think that's kind of what we're going to get. You're getting away from Pete Carroll. Maybe things do change up a bit more, but I do think it's going to be kind of just a different version of the Russell Wilson offense.
Joey, do you have anything?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
You're still recovering. What do you think? Tim Patrick said that the offense is going to be a combination of Russell Wilson's and Hackett's. Do you agree with that? What do you think that would look like?
The combination of Russell Wilson's offense. I'm curious. Wait. Okay. I really have no idea. If I'm going to answer this question, I have zero idea what this offense is going to look like. I think Javonte Williams is a odd fit into what Hackett runs. I think that I don't know. I have no idea. We've seen so much of what Russell Wilson ran in Seattle, changed offensive coordinators, ran the same type of offense. But Hackett did talk it up in his press conference to be outside zone team. So that's kind of what, if I were to guess, that's kind of where I would go on that type of level.
Yeah, I fully agree. Bree, do you have any visions of what the offense looks like?
No, but I think it's really interesting. And I think this is what's curious to me is I view everything almost like a puzzle and how to solve it. And right now you have statements from Javonte Williams saying he doesn't, this is the most, how exactly did he phrase it? This is the most, not detailed. What was the word that he used? I think you had just spoke about it recently. This is not the hardest offense that he's had to learn.
Most complex.
And people are hungry for more of a response than that, and it's not something they can really give up right now because a lot of that's being kept under wraps, specifically by the team, because what they're going to run may not be what we're expecting them to do. So when you hear a lot of talk out of Broncos country that the tight ends aren't going to be used, I mean, is that possibly potentially true with Russell Wilson changing teams and coming over to the Denver Broncos with two currently on the roster that are very much so well-to-do and could be appropriately used? So right now, what I want to see out of the offense, less checkdowns, I guess. How about that?
Man, that would be really nice. But yeah,
good.
Awesome.
I think that just about does it.
Cool.
I think it does. We've gone through. I want to give a very special shout out for many of the members of MHRT, the 5280 podcast, for coming and completely derailing the chat. We actually want this. Come through, give engagement, joke with your friends inside the chat. So special thanks.
Was a blast.
Special thanks to Glenn, Mike, Marcus. I think I saw some other people in here as well. Patrick Chiotti jumped through. Cal, as always. I'm trying to get everyone's name. Marcellus, AJ Irvin, Mr. Acosta, Darius Wilkins, who is in here. If I missed you, please don't take it personal. It just means you have to come back next episode so I can read your name off there. I do want to give Zach and Joey an opportunity to tell us where we can find their stuff. Zach, go ahead for me first.
Yeah, everyone check out my stuff at Mile High Sports. Got a bajillion articles out there. Rookie projected stat line should be out soon, looking at different position groups. Lots and lots and lots of stuff. Yeah, I think I'll probably get the projected stat lines out tomorrow. I think that's going to be my goal for the day. And yeah, come back here on next week, same time, same place. We'll have another one of these for you, and then we'll have another recorded episode for you guys between now and then.
For sure. Yeah, guys, you can give me a follow at JR Drafts. All my writing will be at Mile High Sports. I'm writing a piece about the Broncos defensive line right now and kind of my outlook on that unit. Other than that, guys, make sure that you're liking, subscribing to all of our pods. I hope you guys like this live format. If you guys have any comments on what we could do better or what you like about it, it would be awesome if you let us know. You could DM us, tweet at us, anything like that. Bree, where can they find you?
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter, BRI0322. You can catch me with the LTB podcast just about every week. I would say twice a week sometimes. I'm that lucky. Next time we'll probably be taping from some other unknown location. You can also follow along with MHRT Network, the 5280 podcast, where you can find me most Tuesdays over with those lovely people. And then on Thursdays for Mile High Sports 98.1 FM for the Fan Cave from 7 to 9 p.m. on Thursdays. I can't seem to stop talking about sports or the Denver Broncos. Truly love to do it. And what's even better is I get to do it with these folks here. We do want to wish you a very fantastic rest of your evening, rest of your week before we can actually meet with you all again. And I believe the saying is, let's go Broncos.
Let's go Broncos.
Let's go